Okay. And he told you about this?
Yeah, just good.
How long before we're going to start, like right now?
No, as soon as I get the high sign from TCM.
What do you mean?
I'm waiting for TCM to give me, oh, no.
Nothing, I was just gonna go.
We're waiting for the cameras to light up. That's why we're on pause. Hey, now we're on. All right, good evening, and for those of you at home, and for those of you here, welcome to the public hearing for October 22nd, 2019. And this is the topic regarding adopting an ordinance for property taxes to be submitted to qualified electors. But first, I'll start with introductions. I'm John Hutchings, the chair of the board. To my left is Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards. To my right is Commissioner Ty Menser. To his right is our clerk of the board, La Bonita Bomar, who has an important role tonight. We'll get to that in a minute. And sitting on the bench over here to La Bonita's right is Elizabeth Petrich, our deputy prosecuting attorney. And to her right is Robin Campbell, our assistant county manager and budget director. And then to her right is Romero Chavez, our county manager. And so with that, let me explain, this is a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance regarding regular property taxes to be submitted qualified electors of the county at a special election. And Thurston County, we are seeking input, public input, and placing a ballot measure in front of the voters to fund a new courthouse and regional administrative building. There is a sign-up sheet just over here as you came in, and it looks like this. And if you want to testify, you need to sign up. And once I get through the entire list of folks that have signed up that want to testify, if anybody comes in or changes your mind, you still have an opportunity to do so. And so with that, I'm going to explain La Bonita's role here, not only the clerk of the board, but she's the timer for public comment. There's 3 lights on this display board just here. Green means you have 2, because you get 3 minutes total. Green indicates you have 2.5 minutes left. Yellow means you have 30 seconds. Red means stop. If you're mid-sentence, go ahead and finish your thought. I'm not going to cut you off. And let me just go through some basic rules of conduct, if you don't mind, or guidelines. This is your opportunity to address the board, and it's our opportunity to listen. So we won't be answering questions. We're not going to debate or discuss this item. We just listen. We take notes, staff takes notes, and we'll follow up on this at a later date. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, so we went through that. Meeting attendees, you're not allowed to donate your time to another person. and we reserve the right to restrict a person's opportunity to address the board for good cause. We ask you, please, if you haven't already, please silence your cell phones. No comments that are lewd or offensive to a reasonable person. We ask you, please be respectful. No outbursts of any kind, and no comments that are commercial in nature, like for a for-profit business. And when you address the board, please address the board and not the audience and not staff. Maybe you can look that way if you wish, but you're actually here to address the board. And so when I call you up, I will call up the first person that's on the list, and then who's runner-up, or who's in the batter box, who's coming up next. So you're prepared to keep this flowing. And please just state your name and about where you live in the county. And with that, we will put this aside. We're going to open up the public hearing. It's now open. And now we have a staff presentation by Ramiro Chavez, County Manager.
Thank you and good evening. As a matter of background, the existing hilltop site of Thurston County government and the courts include Building 1 through 6 here at the Courthouse campus. Building 1 and 3 were constructed back in 1978, and are original. They were the original in the complex. Over the last 4 years, the county has purchased buildings 4, 5, and 6, which are located across the street. In 2015 and 2018, Thurston County conducted courthouse renovations and replacement comparative feasibility studies for the purpose to provide the county with a long-term solution to housing court and other county administrative functions in an efficient, cost-effective manner. The existing buildings for county government and the courts in their current state are at the end of their useful life, costing significant taxpayers' dollars to maintain and operate. The current layout and design also makes it difficult for citizens to locate county resources and services in a timely manner. The existing layout of multiple buildings makes it difficult to provide a safe and secure courthouse for jurors, victims, witnesses, and overall county employees and citizens who come do business with the county. The 2018 study at the direction of the county conducted further analysis on 3 sites. One is the existing hilltop site, the Thurston County government, and the courts, where we explore many different options as to how a new building should be constructed in here. Also, this study included the Plum Street site, which was formerly the original site for the Olympia City Hall and currently is the location of the City of Olympia Creighton Justice Center. And number 3 also was on the west side, the Harrison West, which is currently undeveloped and is also within the City of Olympia boundaries. The Board of County Commissioners determined the best way to finance the construction of this particular project was by the levy left. RCW 84.55.050 parentheses 1 provides for the levy of regular property taxes in an amount exceeding the limitations specified under Chapter 84.55 of the RCW. That will be the revised Code of Washington. If such increased levy is authorized by the ballot proposition approved by the majority of the voters at a general or a special election to be held within the taxing district, that will be countywide. Taxpayers who qualified for senior citizen, disabled, or veteran exceptions pursuant RCW 84.36.381 may be exempt from the increased levy amount to RCW 84.55.050 parentheses 4 parentheses E, if expressly stated, and is expressly stated on the ballot proposition. The Board of County Commissioners took initial action back in April 2019, where they put this measure in front of the voters for April 28, 2020. Further conversations and additional public input Out of the abundance of caution, the Board of County Commissioners decided to open the ordinance and include additional elements as the ordinance is currently for public review. Also, out of the abundance of caution, the Board of County Commissioners decided to hold another public hearing today to hear additional public testimony before they can make a final decision. This proposal is to bring to the voters on a special election to be held on April 28th, 2020. And the levy left, there will be, as the voters will be, an estimated increase of a 0.47, that will be 47 cents per 1,000 valuation. That's all I have for you, unless you have any particular questions for me.
Any questions or comments before we begin?
I don't think so. No, sir.
Okay.
No.
Then we're going to go ahead and begin. Again, I will ask people to come up as you signed up on the roster, come up to the podium to testify. And again, state your name and your address for the record, or where you live in the county. First up is Jeff Gadman, followed by John Pettit.
Good evening, thank you. I'm Jeff Gadman. I live in Lacey. I'm also the county treasurer. Knowing the purpose of this hearing, I just really basically want to talk about economics. There's no doubt that these buildings need some serious help, and replacement is cheaper than trying to throw more money at them. So these buildings were built in the 1970s. We weren't as knowledgeable about energy savings or, efficient heating then as we are now. A new building is going to save a huge amount of money on utilities and electrical bills because of the higher efficiency. So there's an advantage to the taxpayers in regards to that. The biggest thing is construction costs are never going to get cheaper. It is more expensive today to build a building of a certain size than it was 10 years ago. It's cheaper right now than it will be 10 years from now. And at some point, a new facility is going to be absolutely needed because this one is going to be well worn out. Right now, we're in 6 buildings up here on the hill. That's not efficient for taxpayers. If they want to do business in different departments that are located in different buildings, they either fight parking or walk. So the walking is healthy, but ADA access is a huge problem. These buildings are not built to current ADA access, and retrofitting them to allow or up to current ADA code is prohibitively expensive. So the county right now, the population is double what it was when this building opened, and so we're asking parking lot that has not changed in size at all to serve a population that's twice what it was. We're asking buildings that have not changed in size at all to serve population that's double what it was. If we get another 100,000 people, which is roughly 30% more population in the next 10 years, we're asking that many more people to be served by these buildings. I urge you to put this on the April ballot because the sooner the cheaper. Thank you.
Thank you. John Pettit, followed by Carrie Hart.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name's John Pettit. I live out off Rich Road. I borrowed Bobby here for just a moment. Bobby, he's here with his parents, and Bobby's 10 years old. What you're proposing is you want to have him in debt till he's 35 years old. Wow. He doesn't get to vote, but he gets to be subject to your plan to spend $250 million plus without any support whatsoever from the City of Olympia for a project down at Plum Street. They've known that since January. We have an interesting crowd here, and I want to point out just a little bit of the crowd. There are supporters, a group called Yes for Safety and Justice. Now, that's kind of an interesting group because I have a list of all the contributors that have made contributions to it, and guess what? It's all lawyers and a retired judge. I guess they want a new house in order to make their $200 to $500 an hour. Mr. Menzer, you being an attorney, if you have a preset thought on this motion because of a relationship you have as an attorney and a commitment, you need to recuse yourself from making a vote. That's the way it works. Now, we also have other people here. We have an architect right here who, if you followed his plan, he'd be making, at least his organization would be, $15 million based upon the numbers that you have on that proposal. It's no denying it. It's on the paperwork. I think we need to do some major rethinking. People can't afford a 38.5% increase in their general fund property tax rate for Thurston County. People can't afford to have 1.2% of the value of their asset, whether it be a home or vacant property, a $300,000 house. Over the term of this program, $3,600 in taxes so they could have the benefit of a new courthouse. Another little fact I think everyone here needs to know, a little over a week ago, we had a meeting right upstairs, a budget meeting. And it was said that, in fact, the decision about not doing maintenance on this building was made by the commissioners. You take care of what you have. There are assets. It's malfeasance of office not to be taking care of it. Quite honestly, you should be removed for not taking care of it. Mr. Menzer, he gets a little bit of a pass here because he just joined the board. But please consider, don't load down more of the burden of this process on the low income, which is probably about 40% of the population of this county. And don't reduce the amount of affordable housing because you want to support your buddies and friends. Thank you very much.
Carrie Hart, followed by Jack Grimes.
Good evening, Commissioners, Manager Chavez, and staff. My name is Kerry Hart. I reside at 1505 Summit Lake Shore Road, Northwest, District 3. I do not support a new county courthouse. During research over the last several years concerning another special election that we had at our lake, I discovered that we are the highest tax waterfront property in the county, and we receive the least amount of county services. We have no water system. We have no sewer system. The county road hasn't been maintained in at least 10 years. Our stormwater ditches are not maintained. The last time I saw a sheriff's deputy was opening day of fishing season back in April. We recently had to approve a levy to keep our local fire station open. We are already subsidizing other residents' services in the county, and a large percentage of the property owners do not reside in the county. My wife and I are on a fixed income, and the new county courthouse will add as much as $400 a year to our already high taxes. At this rate of tax increases, you will be taxing us out of our home in about 10 years. In addition, again, I do not support a new county courthouse. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jack Grimes, followed by David Tidwell.
Thank you, Commissioners, for this opportunity to address the board. My name is Jack Grimes, and I live on 76th Avenue Northeast in North Thurston County. This ordinance change for property tax increase should not be approved by the residents of Thurston County. This is just another tax increase. Thurston County is the 7th of the 39 counties in Washington in the highest property taxes. We are in the top 10% of the counties in property taxes in all of the counties in the United States. Our property taxes are going up every year without this increase. The state legislature increased the taxes in 2017 to pay for the McClary case. Each year we're asked to approve some type of tax increase, school levies, fire districts, port. This year on the November ballot, we're asked to approve a 0.1% increase in the county sales tax rate to fund upgrades to the county communication system. The need to improve the communication system in the courthouse complex has been known as far back as 2008. The previous commissioners ignored these needs. Their contributions to county government was to increase costs and pass ordinances that wasted money. The current commissioners are now tasked with the responsibility to continue to make corrections to this bad policy. This ordinance, if passed, would add to the challenges we face to provide affordable housing. This increases the cost to buy, own, and maintain a home. It will directly impact the homeless situation we are faced with. The information on the Thurston County website about this ordinance change is incomplete and less than honest. The tax increase, if passed, would increase each year as the county assessor revalues our property. We have a very aggressive county assessor. Our taxes are based on a dollar amount per thousand of value as determined by the assessor's office. The total amount of property tax we pay is not mentioned. It is deceiving to present this as a small increase, and the increase in taxes from this ordinance change results in families losing money needed for food, health insurance, etc. I personally am now paying almost $500 per month and almost $5,000 a year for property taxes on my house. I do not get a cost of living raise each year like government employees. And this situation is shared by many of the residents of Thurston County. Every resident of Thurston County, whether they own property or rent, will pay more. The revenue and fees collected by the county are adequate to fund the county. The commissioner should be able to pass a balanced budget with reserves to pay for things like the communication system and courthouse facility improvements. As the example, the reserves that were created earlier today going forward for homeless issue. So in closing, the commissioners needs to find another way to fund this project. They need to apply for grants, state grants, federal grants, and have those that support this proposal create a GoFundMe account to raise the money. Okay?
You about done, Jack?
Closing, everyone needs to remember, we're the 7th highest tax county in Washington for property taxes. We're in the top 10% of all the counties in the entire United States, and we pay approximately 3.5% of our wages in property taxes. This measure should not pass.
Thank you. Next is David Tidwell, followed by Glenn Morgan.
Go for Glenn Morgan, I choose not to.
Okay, that's fine, sir. All right, thank you. Glenn Morgan?
Thank you, Commissioners. Good to chat with you again. For the record, my name is Glenn Morgan. I live between Tenino and Rochester. And I've written on this issue a number of times in the past. I have a website called We the Governed, and I've put up about 4 videos and several articles with a lot of source documents about this topic in Thurston County. But mainly, I just wanted to focus on the fact that I do strongly oppose the ordinance. And there's a variety of reasons why. There are more cost-effective options. The option that's been proposed to the commission here by staff is substantially too expensive. And I think that particularly the Pettit plan of moving district court is a good option, or an alternative anyway, to explore. Secondly, the location chosen is almost the worst location possible in Thurston County. Downtown Olympia, and particularly in the location chosen, is one of the worst liquefaction locations for an earthquake, and also so close to Olympia's urban blight experiment is probably not optimal and was a bad choice. And the plan is assuming that Olympia will pay their fair share of this project, and they won't. It's not in their plan. It's not in any plan that they have. They don't plan to do it, and I don't think they can financially afford to do it, even if they wanted to. So we aren't really recognizing the financial distress that Olympia is putting itself into and their inability to support their part of the plan. I also oppose the fact that this is put on the April ballot, which is designed specifically and explicitly to have low voter support and turnout. If it was put on the November ballot, there'd be more credibility because you'd have a higher voter participation. And unfortunately, based on the minutes that I've seen of the work sessions in the planning for this, the April ballot time was chosen specifically to exclude as many voters as possible for voting on it. And I also want to point out that it cost the county an extra $177,000 to run it there. And unfortunately, during those those work sessions, Doug Ma, the former mayor of Olympia, mentioned that one of the challenges that Thurston County has to overcome is that there is no trust of the people who live in Thurston County for Thurston County. Especially the rural residents have learned through pocket gophers and critical area ordinances and all kinds of other silliness that Thurston County can't be trusted. But it's not just that. It's the history of a failure to build structures in an effective, rational, or logical way, like building a jail that sat empty for 5 years, like putting $18 million into a $3 million building and letting it sit empty for 18 years, the 3400 building. And there are plenty of other examples. Those just happen to be the two spectacular ones, most recent. So people just don't want to support this, and it's going to be very difficult to overcome that. The other issue, and the reason why I support it, is the lack of maintenance on the building is a specific policy choice that's been made by the county for a number of years now, and we're going to be rewarding bad behavior, particularly when in the current budget right now there's no plan to budget or even be able to afford the maintenance on the new building that we supposedly would be able to get. So I just want to point out that one person named Bill Pilkey in 2004 opposed the last Thurston County-wide tax and defeated it very handily just by himself. One guy with almost no money, Bill Pilkey. And I think that that's where this tax is going to go as well. And I just strongly oppose it, and I hope you don't put it on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Trevor Zandell, followed by Larry Jefferson.
Thank you. Good evening. Trevor Zandell, and I live in Tumwater. I want to thank the Board of County Commissioners for their service to our community very much. I'll keep my comments brief. This courthouse campus is inefficient, ineffective, and unsafe. We can't afford not to address these problems. We will spend more over the lifetime of the next 30 years if we continue with these failing buildings and sinking money into these failing buildings than we will if we simply construct a new, modern courthouse. I urge you to support the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Jefferson, followed by Carol Murphy.
Good evening. My name's Larry Jefferson. I live around the corner on Evergreen Park Drive. Gosh, I think I got my first job here in the 80s. The first job I ever had, I was about 16 years old. I've had some wonderful experiences in this courthouse as an attorney, some magical victories and some costly defeats. But one thing that's important about what I did here was about the rule of law. The courthouse serves a special function in our community. We've had this courthouse here, as you know, since 1978. You know, Olympia is a beautiful place. It's a place with dynamic people. And because of that, many people have moved here and continue to move here. And our courthouse has done a great job for us. But it's time to put her to bed. It's time for her to sleep. And the reason that is just given a couple of things that have happened recently here. We recently have new charges from an incident that occurred in September in a hallway that's accessed by judicial officers, partially in a courtroom, things that could be avoided by a new building. Just today, jurors were intermingled with service providers, clients, just in our courthouse. We just don't have the room to be as efficient as we need to be. By building a courthouse, we can be more efficient for our citizens. They deserve it. I mean, right now we have the illusion that this is a safe campus. We can build something better for all of us. And what I would urge to you is that anything that interferes with the rule of law, with decisions that are made, with jurors mistakenly maybe overhearing a comment that in a newer building they wouldn't hear, where people can access services, different courts being combined together so they don't get lost or get needless bench warrants because they went to the wrong place. These are the kind of efficiencies that we can have with a new courthouse. And so I guess what I want to leave you with is that if you had a decision that was affected just because of a building, that your life was completely changed, that's something that we could correct, we should vote for this new courthouse and put it on the ballot for people to make that decision. I want to thank you for your time and allowing me to speak here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Murphy, followed by Larry Hoffman.
Good evening, Commissioners. Carol Murphy, Thurston County Superior Court Judge, and I live in rural Thurston County. I have long been an advocate for a safe and adequate courthouse for Superior Court and District Court, and I am only here to speak about the courts, not other aspects of the proposal that involve other departments, but really to speak on behalf of Superior Court and District Court. I have been advocating for Superior Court for many, many years before all of you here and all of your predecessors as well. The county's response has been studies, many, many, many studies, and a lot of resources into studies that back up the conclusion that the courthouse is inadequate. It's unsafe and absolutely cannot be modified to be made safe and adequate for the citizens. I have been advocating for safe buildings in which our judges' offices will be smaller, not larger, no bathrooms in them, which is something that there's a lot of misinformation about. Right now, I want to offer to meet with anyone and talk with anyone to address some of that misinformation about our current facility as opposed to a proposed new facility. But after all of these studies, the county commissioners developed a plan, not the court's plan, not my plan. It was the county's plan to address the inadequate facilities. I didn't choose the location. The court didn't choose the location. The county commissioners did. The county commissioners decided after all of this input, lots of resources spent, that this was the plan to address your obligation to provide a safe and adequate courthouse for your citizens. If this is not the plan you're going forward on, then what is the plan? To avoid the cost of throwing money into an inadequate facility that's unsafe, the cost of litigation that we know will come because of the risks associated with these buildings. Again, this isn't my opinion that these buildings are inadequate. It is the opinion of the experts that the county commissioners, you and your predecessors, hired in order to get that opinion. Some say that we are here because of past failures by your predecessors. Whether that is true or not, it is incumbent upon you to address this need. This is your plan. It's not the court's plan, but it is your way to address this problem. Your decision on how to meet that obligation, it's up to you. But there's no question that meeting that need and providing an adequate facility is not optional. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Hoffman, followed by, it's going to take me a minute to decipher the name, and it's either Micheline or Micheline. Did I get? Is it here? You here? Okay, good. Okay, thank you, ma'am. You'll be next then.
Good evening. My name is Larry Hoffman. I'm an attorney. I'm probably on Mr. Pettin's list for having contributed to the safety fund. I work in this complex 3 or 4 days a week, some weeks 5 days a week. I do public defense work for the City of Lacey right now. I've done that work for City of Olympia in the past, and I still have a private practice. So I've been in every department in all of these buildings. I've been in Superior Court for representing clients. I've been in District Court, and I'm there frequently. Assessor's office, Treasurer's office, Planning Department, everything that's here. I started working here in 1980. This Capitol, or this courthouse complex, was about 2 years old at that time. Since that time, oh, by the way, I failed to say for the record, I live in Olympia and have since 1980. Since that time, since I started working here, I've changed my office about 5 times for different reasons, sometimes going into partnership with different people, but usually because I have a different need or something is wrong with the office that I have. I've changed computer systems multiple times over the course of those years that I've worked here. This complex to me is like a tool for folks that work here and do business here. Any tradesman or craftsman will know the need for replacing their tools or their equipment when it wears out or it's ineffective and has to be replaced. That's the problem with this complex. It no longer serves work purposes. Yeah, we can scratch by, and we all do. Come to district court someday and see what happens there. And I invite all of you to come there as well. There's one room for conferences between attorneys that are working there on a given day when there may be 5 or 6 attorneys that are working in the courts. One conference room. So folks are discussing their case, the confidentiality issues in their case, in the hallway because there is no place to go. Or you can go outside, of course, unless it's raining or it's cold. Repairs have been attempted. We're all aware of that. We've seen them. I've been in the courtroom. I've seen the courtroom using extension cords to try to connect to a generator so they can have court on a given day. The problem is that those repairs cannot be made to make this tool work anymore at a reasonable cost and in an efficient way. Replacement is the only reasonable economic way to give citizens and county employees who do their business here effective tools to do their work. I think replacement is the only answer. Thank you.
Thank you. And ma'am, you're welcome to testify if you wish. You didn't tick the box yes or no, so I didn't know if you wanted to come up or not. But next would be Giovanna, because that didn't tick yes or no either, whether you want to testify or not. So
Giovanna is no.
is a no. Okay, thank you. You're
So
on.
my name is Micheline Corteville.
Micheline.
I live in Yelm. I am retired and I am on a fixed income. So I am not against a new courthouse for all you people who work here because I hear the need of something that is efficient and that works. What I am against is this proposal of a new courthouse that is too expensive for people to pay for. Because if you say it increases 38.5% of the property tax, I already pay $5,500 for my property. So it will increase, but my income doesn't increase. And it gives problems in the, and I suppose for many people it will be like that. So I understand you can't repair this building, so you have to find something new, but maybe we can find something else. You can find another location, because the location is above something where they have salmons, I have read in the, so that's already a thing you can't do. You can't put it where the salmons come. The location is a bad choice. The building is too expensive, what you are proposing now. Maybe you can find something else in another place, or swap the building for something that is better for you, and that doesn't have that much maintenance. So people who took bad decisions by not repairing this courthouse when they could, that's the past. We should look to the future and find a solution that is good for the people who work here, and that's also good for the people who live here in the whole of Thurston County and who can't afford to pay more. So somebody told here funding, grants, this may be a way to find another solution. Thank you.
Denny Johnston, followed by Robert Haskell.
Thank you. My name is Denny Johnston. I live on the east side of Olympia. And if I'd been here 2 months ago, I would have been saying no, 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 no. I've done some research and I've asked questions of the council members. And I've come to the conclusion that I'm on the fence and leaning towards saying yes to this project. Some of the cons are the construction sticker shock. But then I'm 68 years old, and every price on anything is a shock to me. The renovation of Key Arena is $980 million. And that's a renovation, which puts something in perspective for construction. I do get aggravated by pre-construction costs, which on big projects like this can add up to 40% of the budget. We need to find a way going forward to reduce those kinds of costs. We need to look at what other counties our size are building in the form of infrastructure and borrow from them to reduce those costs. The city of Olympia right now is sort of on my bad side list because they have been for this project, and especially for the location. That is not the right reason to build this, is because you want to gentrify downtown Olympia and get a new tax base for that. The construction industry was in favor of this project, but not for all the right reasons. I've heard some wonderful comments on the con side of this from the people behind me, and I take those to heart. I've also heard some things that I liked about the pro side of this. We can rectify past mistakes, which was the building of that up there. The wow, gee whiz, it looks so cool City Hall that it immediately went out of context for what our needs were. We do have the population increase, which is going to have increased services for the county. I don't personally enjoy them, but I'm glad to see that you've put the senior exemption, or the possibility for low-income seniors to be exempted from this. Going forward, again, compare what we need and what we want and what it costs with other counties around the country. Reduce those pre-construction costs. Prioritize our county needs. $280 million, many people could say we should spend on this, and this. It's going to get spent, but we do have other needs in the future. Take input with some suspicion. Again, I mentioned the city of Olympia, which I love and enjoy living here, and I love the people that work for Olympia, with some trepidation or some suspicion when it comes to other things. It is lobbying, clear and simple, and it's not always for the right reasons that they would be pro or for or against a project. And finally, thanks for all your wonderful work with the county. I appreciate it. I enjoy living here. Work for us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Robert Haskell, followed by Bud Blake, but did not tick the box yes or no? I'll be up there. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Robert Haskell. I live in unincorporated Thurston County in Olympia. These are my two small children. I live in a property that is paid for. The house is paid for. The property is paid for. I've been chasing the American dream. It was an inheritance of my wife's. I pay almost $1,000 a month in taxes. I pay about $10,000 a year in taxes. And this newest levy, just like the gentleman over here, essentially, sooner or later, I'm going to be levied and taxed out of my home. I won't be able to afford it. I've heard a lot of talk about inconvenience of the workplace here, why we need a new county building for all the people that work here and have to come to court and stuff, and it's unsafe and inconvenient, and I get that. My home has some repairs. I need to get a new pump, for my well. I can't afford to do that. I pay a lot of money in taxes. I can't afford, I've got a drainage that's clogged, and it's causing it to overflow, and the rain is going underneath my house. It's causing some rot. It's causing some damage to my home. I can't afford to get these repairs done. I have to save up for a long time in order to do it. So my home life, the living conditions could become unsafe for where I live, not just where I work, but for where I live. Now, I take offense to the fact that I have people who make 3 times the amount of money that I do telling me that I need to give more in order to provide a better work environment for them. And so my suggestion, please forgive me of my ignorance of politics and all the branches of government. I've been just newly blessed with this property. I don't know if you guys are aware of a show called 90 Days In, 60 Days In. It's about a guy that goes to jail, doesn't necessarily belong there, and then he gets some canteen from the store. And when he does, he has all these convicts come around him, and they just start preying on him, and everybody wants, and they want to take a little bit of stuff, and they get more guys to get together and gang up on him and take his stuff. And that's how I kind of feel now that I've become a property owner. I feel like I'm an open checkbook for Thurston County. Every time I turn around, there's another levy, there's another tax. We want to increase it, we want to increase it. We've reached the maximum, and now we want to put it to a vote on the ballot for the general public to come together, most of whom don't own property, and vote to victimize a minority class of people in property and homeowners and make them pay for it. And so when I asked some of the people, I asked Romero Chavez, I had a phone call with him, and I said, hey, you know, this is what you're doing. You're victimizing a smaller class of people and forcing them to pay for it. And he said, well, you know, that's democracy. And so I would like to propose, on average, the average income for a homeowner in Thurston County is $62,286. Now, I have here a list of the assessor, the auditor, all of them making $122,000 a year. I don't have medical coverage. You guys, all the county employees, you guys got the best medical coverage money can buy. I don't. How about we put a freeze on raising my taxes and raising the levies to the point to where some citizens have to move and I can no longer have a home to raise my family in? And why don't we look at reducing bloated salaries? Why don't we put that on the ballot? Who's working towards that? And I understand I'm not going to get any answers. There's no public forum to which I could hold you guys accountable for your decisions. And because of the lack of morality, I can see why. I am opposed to this measure. I would like to retire in my home. I would like you guys to not stop that from happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bud Blake, followed by Ken Morse.
Good evening, gentlemen. I am Bud Blake, and I'm from Thurston County. I want to go on the record first and foremost to say that I agree with Mr. Gadman and Judge Murphy that the buildings here need to be absolutely in the safest mode possible. The courthouse serves a huge function, as you can imagine, both economically, socially, and culturally. And we need a good courthouse for the people to come do their business and the judges to be able to do the stuff they need to do and the lawyers do what they need to do to protect and defend, and so on and so on. Also go on the record that state that I am adamantly opposed for any of the funds to be funded for the Plum House decision, where they put the courthouse at the Plum House Street. It's always for the western side or putting the money here, and as far as when I was on the county commission. And that's still stated, I'd still state that to be on the record. However, I am opposed for any funds to be going to the Plum House, the Plum Street decision. It is about the unwisest decision to put it there in many different ways. We can list them environmentally, economically, traffic. It is by far the most absurd thing to put Thurston County through as far as taking money and putting it into use. Well, the reason why I came here is I was at a restaurant just the other day, and I listened to 6 adults that have been here for a long time, and one of them is a local business owner, and I know her, and you would know her if I mentioned her name. And I was within earshot, not being nosy, and I heard them talk about $3 million, and obviously I knew they were talking about the courthouse, and how they were on and on and on and talking about how the cost of it is. But what really struck me is how they did not know how they were going to pass the 38%, those are her words, 38% on to the customers and survive their business in the next 5 to 10 years. And I said, that's got to be enough. I got to come down here and speak on her behalf, even though she knows I'm not here. This is outrageous. If you think you can take that kind of money and pass it on to the business, this is a very well-established local business, and not only at their kitchen table for their families, now it's going to hurt the business as a whole. And they attract a lot of people from the region to come here and do their business for a couple of days or weeks, and then people leave and come and go based on that clientele. The other one is I was at a HOA in Lacey, listening to some issues, trying to help give some advice on the issues that were at hand. And at the end of conclusion there, the soccer moms and the soccer dads were just, the subject came up, and they went through the roof knowing that they were going to have to pay $300 million and all the costs that goes associated with that, debt service, what have you, in terms of the way their children are going to have to be indebted to this. So I just ask you to think wisely before you make your decision. I voice my opinion where it is, and I thank you very much for letting me do it.
Thank you. Ken Morse, followed by John Drevick.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ken Morse. I live just outside the urban growth management area for Lacey, so I'm in the county. And I strongly oppose this new tax. I'm approaching retirement. 38% increase in my property taxes is going to be devastating. thinking about where I might move. But I would just like to give you a little perspective from the professional standpoint. I work in land development. I'm a septic designer. I've worked in various other aspects of the septic industry. I'm best in the industry. But what I want to say tonight is I've watched a transformation over the last 20 plus years of Thurston County bureaucracy and how it works. Used to be, when I started my business, a fairly friendly, fairly efficient, helpful, good people to work with. And there's been a long, slow slide, and it's become a nightmare for many. Many of my counterparts have left working, even though they live in Thurston County. They only work up in, they go Mason County, they go to another county to find employment because of the obstructiveness and dishonesty and incompetence of of certain individuals in the employment of the county. And a new building is not going to fix that. Bad policies, bad procedures, the plethora and growth of massive regulations which cost people and drive businesses away and destroy the rural economy will not be fixed by a new courthouse. You have issues, deep, troubling issues. You address that first before you come to us and say we're going to raise your property tax nearly 40%. Thank you very much for listening.
John Drebick, followed by John Thunheim.
Don't start the clock yet.
No, you're all right, you're all right.
A little slow. They don't work like they used to. They just don't work. Well, thank you for holding this meeting at 5:30, and we can get home at a decent time to have some fun or something. I've presented a letter to you earlier today, so I won't cover that. Excuse me, John Drebeck, 1710 Delphi Road Southwest.
Thank you, sir.
And 1001 Evergreen Park Drive Southwest, just down around the corner. I've had an opportunity to build a couple 100,000 square feet of office space here up near the courthouse over the last many years. I was here when this courthouse was built. I've been the notary public on the plat for this. So I have some credentials, and I think you should listen to them. We've recently acquired 4 buildings over here that were built in 1978, and we've drebitized them. It's a verb that we've come up with, and we've drebitized them. We've changed what they look like. We've changed the occupancy. They're modern buildings. They're working just fine. The basic structures are okay, and the buildings were built in '78. It's not a big deal to modify them to fit. Now, we and my son, who's a general contractor, have looked at the situation here, and we're satisfied that structures are fine. Of course, there's things need to be done. They can be done. I believe the solution perhaps ought to be we can build very tall buildings up here. We have great foundation, and I believe we can build a parking structure with as many offices as we can jam in the upper levels. It could include the court and their auxiliary uses, and do it on the parking lot over here. We could log all the trees and take them to the sawmill and sell them and use them for whatever purpose we could use them for. This building could be vacated. There's close to, I forgot the numbers, about 60,000 square feet of vacant office space that we built and sold to some investors in New York who've vacated them. The state's vacated them. They're there ready for occupancy for offices. Would you do that, and you could have the luxury to remodel this building, you could work at building the high-rise building. Now, people talk about construction costs, but they don't think about the rest of it. There's construction costs go up, so do wages go up, everything goes up. It's a stair-step thing. Sure, costs are going to go up, but so is the income. assessed valuations are going to be going up. So the opportunity for the base for income has gone up. So don't use that construction costs. I've heard that argument for years. Do it right now because we're going to save money because we're going to do it tomorrow. Oh, it's a false statement, believe me. And so in any event, I've asked for us as taxpayers to be buyer beware. That's going to be my statement. I'm going to preach it up to the time that we have the election. And I see the red light's on, but I'm the last guy up, so nobody's standing behind me smoking on me.
There is.
In any event, my litany is, we do not need a fancy courthouse, just one that provides a safe and healthy environment for county workers to provide the services that the county residents need and are entitled to. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. And up next is John Thunheim.
You bring the prosecutor up here. No.
Am I the last one?
Allegedly, but I'm going to open it up to a forum here.
Okay, allegedly. I'm not going to take more than just a couple of minutes. My name is John Thunheim. I'm the Thurston County prosecutor and also a resident of the Steamboat area of Thurston County. I just want to come back to the question that's before you, because we've heard a lot of debate about whether this is a good project, good location, bad location. And my request simply tonight is let the voters make the choice. Let the voters decide. That's the question before you, is do the voters get a voice in this? There are folks here who are obviously strongly opposed to this project. Absolutely respect their right to have their opinion, to express that, and to engage in the public debate in which they have to defend their position. And there are people here that are for this project, myself included, who, again, have the absolute right to support and defend and argue their position. And I think what that tells you, how this room is divided, is that this is an issue that needs to go to the voters. We need to have this public conversation in this county. As a group, as a collective, as a community, we need to come together and have this conversation and make a decision about what the courthouse looks like in this county, where it's going to be located, how it's going to be funded. We know that we got to do something, right? I want the opportunity, along with a number of my colleagues, to go out in the community and talk to them about a vision that we have for a new courthouse, a modern facility that allows us the ability to continue to create the innovative justice programs that we are working on, and to better find ways to make government more efficient, improve service, and perhaps even make the community safer, and perhaps most of all, make our own employees a little bit safer, and the people who come to the courthouse for service a little bit safer. And that's all we ask for, is the ability to go out into the community and to lay out that vision and to see if the voters are interested in adopting that vision for the future or not, or perhaps a different vision. But at the end of the day, the question before you tonight is not whether we go forward with this project or not. The question before you tonight is, who gets to choose? And I'm going to ask you to make the decision to let the voters decide. Let this community come together and have this conversation and make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. That exhausts the list of folks that have signed up, but wait. Okay, if you would like, is there another sign-up sheet out there? I'm still going to open it up to those that have changed their mind or come in late that would like to address this issue. You're welcome to, if you have not spoken yet. Okay. So would you like to come up? Is anybody like to come up to speak? Okay. Yeah, come on.
Hello, Commissioners. I did sign a sheet out there with about 6 names on it, so it's somewhere in there.
Michelle.
Yeah. I'm looking. Yeah, you did, and it says no. You don't want to talk.
I must have been wearing my glasses.
But
Okay.
You're welcome to. Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you, and it's nice to see you all again. So, my name is Michelle Hawkins Brigham. My husband and I own 2 properties in Thurston County just outside Yelm. For years, we have dealt with an intolerable situation brought about by a county ordinance signed into law in 2012. Due in part to my disappointment with Thurston County over this issue and points made by other concerned residents, I oppose the property tax increase proposed with this new ordinance. Safety upgrades for the current courthouse are necessary. I believe improvements could and should be made to the existing building. My earlier testimony in opposing the ordinance mentioned sea level rise as a concern. Although considered off point, projections show water reaching Plum Street in reports as far back as 1992. Why should residents be locked into a 25-year tax increase to build in a location with so many unknowns, including improvement in salmon runs as discussed elsewhere? If a new courthouse were to be built, Tumwater would better serve many residents living in outlying areas, in my opinion. However, why would I vote yes to a property tax increase for a new building based on the argument of safety when actions by the county added to unbelievable stress to my family that continues to this day? Even recently, multiple robberies were recorded with the Sheriff's Department. Why vote yes when nothing has been done to restore the damaged landscape next to my property or to condemn 2 inhabited homes said to be too decrepit to warrant taxing by the assessor? Why vote to increase my family's property taxes after 2 unpermitted marijuana facilities supported for years by the county led to neighbors with 5 young children selling and forcing us to take on another mortgage to prevent further expansion by growers purchasing that property? Why increase my taxes to fund a new building when law enforcement, who finally offered us some relief toward the end of 2018, could have their funding reduced as a result of this new courthouse proposal? Why vote yes when a response to our situation took years, multiple public hearing testimonies, and thousands of dollars from our retirement? We know of people whose home was condemned by Thurston County. Why are exceptions made for some? And why would the county deserve more than $500 in additional tax revenue a year from my family when failing to follow through to assist communities struggling with potential retaliation, loss of enjoyment of their property, and a continuing menace as a result of prior Thurston County decision-making? My husband and I have paid property taxes for 30 years. I am opposed to the proposed ordinance to increase taxes to fund a new courthouse and request a list of other sources researched that might fund this project. Thank you, commissioners and county staff, for your other good works and for considering citizen points of view. Sincerely, Michelle.
Thank you. And there was somebody else? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward. Yeah. And I'll get your name and...
My name's Janine Lindsay, and I wasn't really planning on talking, but I wanted to respond. Especially, Olympia. City of Olympia. We had a fairly vigorous debate about this issue on Nextdoor with a lot of the neighbors, and I'm not an anti-tax proponent. I'm finding some very interesting bedfellows in the audience, and I'm really appreciative of that because normally I'm very supportive of taxes that benefit the entire community. But when it came to this courthouse proposal, I looked at it very closely. I read the entire proposal. And I'm very concerned about the price tag. I'm very concerned about the location. I'm very concerned about who's paying for it. I think that this is a great location. I think that repairs could be done in this area. Even if they're expensive, they're not going to approach $250 to $280 million, which I think will probably go over that. I think that the sea level rise is definitely an issue, as Michelle's talked about. But more specifically, across the street from this proposed site is the L&I building, which I have a good friend who's been a director there for a long, long time, and she's been talking about the absolute difficulty of dealing with that fill site for that building. They've been dealing with it for decades. There's no solution for it, and it's right across the street from this location. So I have a hard time understanding why you've come up with this location with the fill of downtown Olympia, this building across the street is easy to find out the issues with this. I'm trying to figure out, did you know about this? Or, you know, is this part of what the decision was about? I'm also concerned, so, you know, the location is a huge one, but based on sea level rise and based on this problem with the fill. The other thing is that there's two watersheds, or there's excuse me? Yeah, well, there's the aquifer, there's Moxley Creek, that's another issue altogether, but there's two, I'm not catching the word, but two watershed issues on the site. And then there's the issue of, how this is going to get paid for, and I'm very disturbed by the fact that this was going to be put to the voters as a 50% a majority vote rather than a 60% vote, which is normal and customary for this kind of funding. So I don't understand that. I don't understand the timing also of the election. The election's in a time when very few people show up for this kind of election. I think it's during spring break, if I'm not mistaken. It was put at a time where very few people will really come out for this vote, and a 50% majority means that you're just looking for the least possible people to vote on this issue. So those are all concerns for me. The price tag is a huge concern, and the fact that taxpayers pay for this. I'm into taxes, but I think this is too expensive, and I think that we should be, in my opinion, fixing the area that we're in, which is known to all the county, and that we use this site as the courthouse site.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address the board on this topic that has not yet? No? Yes, sir?
Yeah, Commissioners, before you close the public hearing, I'd just like to give you a report. The lead into this public hearing, we received 8 written testimonies in opposition of this proposal, 8 in support of this proposal, and also we received from Mr. Pettit a petition that included a spreadsheet including a list of 434 individuals across the county in opposition to this proposal as well.
All right. Thank you.
I delivered a letter at 11:36 today because it was required to be in before noon, and it sure as hell didn't approve of what you were doing.
That is included on the report that I just said.
That isn't what you said.
That I said I'd received 8 written testimonies in opposition, and yours is one of them.
There you have it. It's in. It's in.
But it was not a positive. It was not a positive remark. You implicated it was a positive.
In opposition, 8, and in support, 8. So it's 8 and 8. In addition to that, Mr. Pettit submitted a
16 submitted then?
total 16 written testimony.
All right, I understand now. Thank you. 8 is half.
Thank you for that. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Come and testify?
Can we do it again?
No. Not when you enjoy it this much, no. Is there a motion? Do you have more to report, or is this?
No, Commissioners.
Okay.
I suppose, depending on the motion, is when we'll make the decision. Is that right, sir?
Yes, you have in front of you a motion to close the public hearing, and I will recommend for you to delay any other actions until you have the opportunity to process all the public comment you have received, and I will bring this matter to your attention maybe in a week or so.
Thank you. And I would make a motion.
Well, wait. Do we ask questions of you now if there's questions for clarification, or after we close the public meeting?
Either way, you can probably close the public hearing, then ask me questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I would move to close this public hearing this evening.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing of October 22nd, 2019 on the courthouse issue. Any further discussion on the closure of this meeting?
I guess I would ask, did we close? We had 2 earlier public hearings. Are we in recess still, or are we still in we're in a public meeting yet then, right? Even though we're closing this hearing.
We're closing this public hearing.
Okay.
Yes. So all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. This public meeting is closed. However, I have a question. Do you have questions of staff? I do.
Yeah, I do.
I've heard a few people mention, and Mr. Blake, I think, left early, about the location, proposed location. Is that in this current ordinance that we're looking at?
And this current proposal does not specifically cite the location. It only speaks about the studies that include in 3 locations, the existing courthouse, the west side, and the Plum Street.
Okay, so the site is not specific in this ordinance, thank you. And the exemptions, one exemption was listed or mentioned earlier. Can you tell me what the added exemptions are?
Yeah, for qualified senior citizens, disabled, and veterans, those exceptions are in accordance to RCW 84.36.381.
Thank you. So that's qualified senior citizens, veterans, and disabled. Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
And we're going to have a decision-making meeting at our next county commission meeting next Tuesday. Is that what you're thinking?
What I'm thinking is I will bring this item on your agenda setting next Tuesday morning. I will facilitate a conversation among yourselves based on the public testimony you have received today. And then at that point, I will ask what will be the pleasure of the board moving forward.
And I guess I would just like to point out to the citizens here that if that's going to take place at a work session, you're all invited to come to that, as well as the 2 o'clock county board meeting next Tuesday. So I don't know that we're going to make those decisions at that point.
Yeah, purposely, I will bring this matter on your agenda setting, which is next Tuesday at 9 in the morning. And that session is televised, is via YouTube, so all the citizens can get access live stream that session.
But if you choose to come, it's straight upstairs, not just above us here, not here in this room. Now is there a motion to close our meeting from today?
I would move to close.
I think you're done.
Well, we did the public hearing, but the BoCC meeting, I thought we still had open.
Public hearing.
You may want to consider adjourning.
Oh, it is?
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead and
adjourned. We're adjourned.
Yeah.
Thank you. Doesn't take a vote, you're right.